Yeah, boy!
It is vital that you stay in your homes, make no attempt to reach loved ones, and avoid all physical contact with the assailants.
You believe everything you hear on TV?
These instructions.
From the shadows to the light, we'll judge every fearsome sight. Gore and chills all in one night. Tune in now, it's pure delight. Rapid reviews, here we go. Quick and snappy, watch us flow. Scary movies, yes or no. Rapid reviews, steal the show.
Hello and welcome back to Rapid Reviews. My name is Scott and I'm your host each and every week. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe, especially subscribe because then you know when we drop new videos. We are now fully into spooky season and it is a very special anniversary of Shaun of the Dead. And for this Rapid Reviews, I thought it was only fitting to have my Simon Pegg to my Ed on the show. So welcome to the show, Marc. Yeah. Is that the way round we are? Am I Ed and you're Simon Pegg, or is it the other way around?
I feel like I would like to be Simon Pegg in the situation. I'll be honest with you. If I had to pick between the two, I feel like, yeah, that's a suitable dynamic.
And I am more likely to come up to you and go,
Can I get any of you cunts a drink?
There are some questionable things about Ed in this movie, let's be honest.
yeah. I love this film. I don't know anyone who doesn't love this film. Like, I'm going to kick this off and say to you an almost impossible question. What is your favourite scene in Shaun of the Dead?
It's funny you should ask me that. My favourite scene is one of the most random scenes in the film, actually, and it's when they do the garden hopping scene and they're all breaking through and all the rest of it. And it's when I can't remember his name now. I've watched this film like 3 times in preparation for doing rapid reviews because I love this movie so much. Who's the guy that they refer to as the accountant? He's not the accountant.
Oh,
the guy from Black Books.
Yeah, I've gone blank as well, but I know who you mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's so irrelevant to the actual, even though he's a vital part of the story, his name's so irrelevant. But it's when they're doing that, and he turns around to Shaun and he says, "Oh, look at you, Captain Wow." And it's like it's the most irrelevant comment in the entire film, considering how full this movie is of vital catchphrases and key moments. When he turns around to Shaun and says, "Oh, Captain Wow," I'm just there and I'm like, yeah, do you know what? I would be Captain Wow in this situation because it's so one of those moments where it's not you. You're not equipped for this situation. But when you're there, you switch on, you get into gear and it's like, right, save your mode. Let's do this. It's a zombie apocalypse. Let's fix it. And then when he turns around and says, "Oh, sorry, Shaun, Captain Wow," I'm just like, perfect. Perfect timing. Perfect moment.
It's David. His name's
David. Yeah, his name's David. And he calls Shaun Captain Wow. I love it.
See, I really like David. I think he's a really underappreciated character in this because he gives the right level of snarkiness that makes everything that Shaun and Ed do so much more amplified. When he makes a snippy comment, like when he's like, "Oh, is that your boyfriend?" And he goes, "There you go, babe." Like, all of that doesn't work unless David is there.
And I think that's what it is because Shaun and Ed are so relatable to people, especially people like me and you, where like we are from that generation of people where we resonate with Shaun and Ed. We understand those characters. We've kind of lived the lifestyle that those characters have had in our youth. And we've met people like David throughout our life. And when he says that line, I'm like, oh, I fucking met people like you. And that comment just fucking grinds me down. And I'm like, I get it, man. I get it. And it's so wild how many relatable, quippy moments there are in this film. That's the one that stands out to me. But every time I watch this, I rewatch, the Captain Wow moment just makes me laugh my ass off every time.
Yeah, see, for me, it's the scene in the bar with Don't Stop Me Now, where they attack the guy with the pool cues. Every time he's like, John, it's time at the bar. And like they're hitting him in time, but they're
into the
alternating what
beat.
pool cue. Like that is just pure gold. And this is one of the few movies that translates from UK to the US, because the US audience love this as well, which for
Yeah.
a British movie that is riddled with sarcasm, normally those movies in the States don't land. They normally
Yeah,
miss a
it's
mile.
very, very British humor centric.
Yeah, it is. And I think that it's testament to how well this is written and how much of this is Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg with Nick Frost sat around drinking beer, making jokes, and just building on what they've already got, because they'd already done it. Was Spaced, wasn't it, with the TV series,
Yeah.
where this is
Phenomenal. Well, this all originated from an episode of Space. Did you see the episode where Simon Pegg was playing Resident Evil 2?
yeah
And he's and then he sort of like drifts off, stunned, and falls asleep. And then he imagines himself in his flat for living out the scenario of Resident Evil 2, and he's like they're attacking the zombies and shooting them all. That is where this originated from.
Yeah, and it's. I argue, and I've had this argument so many times online. Shaun of the Dead is the most realistic zombie movie to how people would react. Because honestly, zombie in the garden, if it was you and me, we would think it was a drunk woman. And if she was clambering all over you, I'd be scrambling to get my phone to take a photo or a video before I helped you. And then when they realize it is zombies, let's go to the shed. What have we got in the shed that we could use to take these out? Like, I find this movie so relatable because I think it is so realistic. People wouldn't have a clue what to do. And it would be this, like when you watch like things like World War Z or any Americanized zombie movie, they're like, we're going to get guns, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to here because it's a safe place. Like they sit there, like, the plan.
I mean, to throw World War Z in there is a little bit cheap. I watched World War Z the other day, and that movie's fucking great. Massively underrated, in my opinion, in terms of realism from an actual apocalypse. More on that later. But I think, yeah, you're right. This is a very grounded approach to what a zombie apocalypse would be like. And I think due to Simon Pegg's passion for Dawn of the Dead, I mean, he loves it. He loves it. They did a re-release of the book of Dawn of the Dead, and he wrote a foreword for it. That's how passionate he is about it. When George Romero released Land of the Dead, I think it was,
they cameoed, didn't they?
They cameoed it,
and Edgar Wright. They were the hung up
zombies and the framework in the apocalypse art. You know, like the whole world just incorporates itself. Like, and you can see that from the writing from Simon Pegg is how passionate he is about the genre and how much he loves the zombie genre and how much he appreciates what George Romero did for it, because they don't take leaps and bounds and advantages of the core sort of narrative of a zombie apocalypse. They embrace it, and they even though they mimic it and they take punts at it and they laugh at it, and there's a lot of one-liners in here that sort of pick apart the loopholes that we've come to know within the zombie genre, they still pay homage to it throughout with respect to the original artist, which is George Romero.
Yeah, and I think that's really difficult to do, because when you do a comedy, and this is a horror comedy, when you do a horror comedy, your goal is to normally poke fun. Look at things like Scary Movie or even Zombieland. They poke fun at the zombie genre. Shaun of the Dead doesn't do that. It fully embraces like the slow moving zombies, and it works within that narrative. Yes, they're slow, but there's a really good scene where Simon Pegg jumps up. Like they're all trying to get into the pub, and he jumps up like, follow me, follow me, follow me. And then he runs away. And if you've ever seen, they've got cartoon scripts. Have you seen these where they fill in the plot holes? So I think there's 6, and they fill in the plot holes of what happened when characters split off. So the Simon Pegg one, it's narrated by him, and you see him run off away from the zombies. And he's like, funnily enough, being chased by zombies is actually a really slow process. And you see him sitting down and waiting, and then they catch up, and then he runs a bit more, and then he sits down, and then you sit, and then he's like, and then I just nipped down an alley and got into the pub. And as he turns the corner, you see one of the zombies turn, and that's how they got back to the pub. Like those little vignettes that they made for the DVD are fabulous. There's one, it's David's girlfriend. You know, when she goes out of the pub flailing his arm, like the vignette of her, she goes and like she gets away from the zombies and she sits in a tree for 4 days, and she has to eat David's arm because she has nothing to eat. Like they're absolutely amazing.
I didn't know that's cool. I've never seen any of those.
Google them. They are honestly the best thing. You'll see some clips in this episode, and I'll put some links down below as well. What do you think of their plan? Does their plan make sense to you?
I mean, I think it's a spin on the whole George A. Romero going to the shopping mall in Dawn of the Dead idea. So I think it works very well within the plot of the movie. I mean, logistically, no, it's fucking terrible. It's absolutely dire, to be honest with you, in terms of Shaun's overall arc. But in homage to what George A. Romero did with Dawn of the Dead, yeah, I understand why they did what they did. But yeah, no, it's not a very practical solution.
And the inclusion of Bill Nye.
So good.
Bill Nye can do no wrong in my eyes. He's great in everything he touches, from was it Love Actually, where he's the singer, from that right through to like him being the vampire king or whatever he was in Underworld. He's amazing. And in this, just as a normal bloke, Shaun's stepdad, like I grew up with a stepdad, and the first time I watched this, like very much I was in that world of having a stepdad, and I resonated so much with Shaun. Like, you're a dick, but in reality, he wasn't a dick. And I love the emotional bit in this, like when they're talking about going and killing Phil, like, go kill Phil, move on to the Winchester, everything will be great. And when it actually comes to the bit where he's leaving him in the car, and Shaun's really cut up, and he's like, there's nothing you love of that man in there. And he leans over and switches off the rock music. Oh man, I'm broken every time.
And that's the thing. There's so many subtle things like that most people who watch this movie wouldn't appreciate if you was just watching it as a general audience, you know, not like being fans of the genre, not being fans of horror. If you just watch Shaun of the Dead, this movie is an okay movie for you.
Yeah.
But if you're a horror fan and you're a zombie fan specifically, this is one of the greatest movies ever made. I'll be honest with you right now.
It's like we're midway through. Let's give it a score. It's a waste of our time, but it's a 5 out of 5 from me.
Yeah, it's 5 out of 5 from me as well. I think this is perfect.
Where do you sit on a sequel? Because there's been talk of a sequel. Simon Pegg said it's not happening. There was talk of them doing From Dusk Till Shaun, which would be taking the same characters from this and putting them in a vampire scenario. They teased a poster in Spider-Man Into the Multiverse. They had a From Dusk Till Shaun poster up on one of the billboards. Would you want to see it, or do you think this needs to be left as is?
I think this 100% needs to be left as is. I think this is a cult classic among horror fans, and rightly so. That doesn't mean to say that I don't want any more from the trio of Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and Edgar Wright. I hope they make more movies, not necessarily movies like Paul, but I hope they make more movies in the future together.
I liked Paul.
Yeah.
Paul is what it. Paul falls outside of the Cornetto trilogy. The Cornetto trilogy is brilliant. So that's this, Hot Fuzz, and World's End. And I love all three of those movies. Paul was okay. And if I'm honest, I think it was the bad reception to Paul that made them stop.
Was Edgar Wright director of Paul? I don't think he was he?
No.
I don't think he was.
Bear with people. We don't ever do this on Rapid Reviews, but I'm going to do it now because I have Google in front of me.
I don't think Edgar Wright was the director of Portal. I think it was just a Simon Pegg and Nick Frost combination.
No, it was directed by Greg Mottola.
Yeah, I didn't think it was Edgar Wright. Which is funny because when you pair Simon Pegg and Nick Frost together, you just automatically assume that it's part of this universe, and it's not. Let's break the Cornetto trilogy down a little bit because I love Shaun of the Dead unconditionally. As we've already said, it's 5 out of 5. Hot Fuzz, where are you at with Hot Fuzz?
4 out of 5.
I don't need a breakdown of the movie.
Yeah,
just a score.
4 out of 5 for Hot Fuzz.
4 out of 5. I'm with you on that. World's End, where are you at?
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. I'm with you on that. So there is a decline. There is a decline in quality. There is a decline in quality of these movies as they go. And when you talk about wanting a trilogy, not trilogy, sorry, you talk about wanting a sequel to these movies, especially of Shaun of the Dead, given how fucking fantastic Shaun of the Dead is, would you want that taint upon this movie? Like, I want to see them work together again. Don't get me wrong. I don't know how many flavors of Cornetto they are. I'm not a big Cornetto lover. You've got the 3 of we are at the moment. You've got strawberry, mint, and what's the World's End representing? It's vanilla. So you've got the 3 as we are now. I don't know how many flavors of Cornetto you can get to add additional movies to this franchise, but for me, they do take a rapid decline in quality. Shaun of the Dead being the pinnacle of that quality.
Yeah,
I don't know if I need them to do it again. I want to see them work together again, but I don't know if I want them to taint what we have already.
Yeah, I think I would take a vampire story with this cast, but not linked to Shaun of the Dead. So if you called, instead of it being Shaun, it was Bill and Bob, whatever. So it wasn't directly linked, but it was the same cast. I'd take that and I'd go in with a pinch of salt, knowing that Shaun of the Dead is pure lightning in a bottle. This is Alien. This is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is Nightmare on Elm Street. This is Halloween of horror comedy.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yeah, like this is, you're never going to recreate this. Like you'd never recreate Tucker and Dale. You can never recreate Halloween. These movies are iconic because everything fitted. Like if they'd released Shaun of the Dead 3 years later or 2 years earlier, it wouldn't have landed as well as it did. It just hit that perfect time where things they say and things they do were still readily said, like where they refer to each other as gay as an insult. Like that's not okay. But like when this came out, that was like that's what everyone done. Like that's how straight men would go, "Oh, you're gay." Like that was a thing, and it worked.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Let's break that down a little bit because where are you at with that? Because like this is a rewatch for me. I haven't watched this movie in years, and then like I say, I've watched it 3 or 4 times this week. And every time Nick Frost busts out the gay line, I barely laughed. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought, because I reminisced from a time period in my life where that was an insult.
See, I laugh because I remember being 14, 15. And if one of your mates went, "But I love her," that would be your response. But I know if they released this movie today and that line was in it, this would be top of the list for being cancelled. This would be like, you can't say that. And that's what I mean, where it falls in this very special place. Like these things they're saying at the time this was released, they'd started to become things you cannot say. So it was a little bit risque. Like, oh shit, did he just say that? But it wasn't so far past that point that it become so insulting that you couldn't watch it. And I laugh at lots of the jokes in this out of nostalgia for that time period, nostalgia for like how it was at that time. Like, their relationship in this is very reminiscent of a 21, 22-year-old me, where I was flat sharing with someone and we'd sit there on a Sunday and drink beer and play video games. And like you would go to the shop, you're like, "Do you want anything at the shop?" And it would be something random like Cornetto. Like
Yeah.
It's so real to me from that time in my
Yeah.
life.
I think that's what it is for me. It's so relatable, this movie.
Maybe they need to do another one that now relates to how we are now. Like, make them married with kids and make them like meet up at a barbecue, and at a barbecue the world goes to shit and they now need to care for their family and their wife and their kids while still having that banter. That would work.
But I don't think it does, because that's what they tried to do with The World's End. Do you know, it shows that progression of people and how they move through their life and what various stages they are in their life, depending on relationships and marriage and children and all the rest of it. And for me, I don't think World's End is a very, very good movie. Do you know, like, I
No,
love Shaun of the Dead, and I love Hot Fuzz. I think Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead are the pinnacle of what
the
these
greater
collective,
good. The
the
greater good.
greater good, the greater good. What makes you think it's murder? I love it. I love Hot Fuzz. Do you know? And I think it's great. But like, we're laughing now and we're making quotes and we're making one-liners. But can you give me one from World's End?
No.
No, exactly.
I can't.
You can't, because it just is. It's not. It just doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. And like that blend of comedic trio, if you will, between the three of them, outdated very rapidly.
Yeah.
And that's not to take anything away from the movies that they've done together. That, like, they're cemented in time as being fucking top tier, you know. But when you're trying to make things relevant and you're trying to make things feel appropriate to the audience of today's standards, I don't know if the three of them could do something that would match the levels of what they did already. And
No.
I respect them for staying away from it for that reason, because I think individually they know. I think individually they know that they're not those people anymore. They're not era appropriate to do so. And I think the only way that they could do it would be in order to appease fans such as ourselves, you know, people
Yeah.
like you and me who want it. But it's not going to be box office level numbers, and it's not going to be
No.
box office level funding to get it done. You know, like, don't get me wrong, that whole Into the Spider-Verse thing, if they did a parody of From Dusk Till Dawn with Shaun, From Dusk Till Shaun, you know, I would eat it up. I would eat it up.
Oh,
But the
yeah.
chances are I would probably be the only one in the theatre that night watching it.
No, I'd be there'd be two empty theaters. You'd be in one and I'd be in another, and I'd be laughing my ass off when Ed punches the guy and goes, "Is my shit together or is my shit together?" Like, I'd be like, I'd love to see. Like, I'm going to ask you a really hard question now, and it's something I thought of the other day that I want to add to rapid reviews. If you could take one scene and show it to a mixed audience of all ages to try and sell this movie for them to go and watch it, what scene would you choose?
He's got an arm off. Oh, he's got an arm off. that would be mine from Shaun of the Dead, I think.
I completely forgot about that scene. He's got
Oh my god, he's got an arm off.
He's there like that.
What would be yours?
My scene is my scene happens around that time. Mine would be the LP scene. The LP
Yeah,
scene.
but I don't think that's relatable to audiences though, because of, like, we laughed at it because we're from a genre where an era, sorry, where we get it, where he's flipping through the records and he's the Batman soundtrack, you know, and he's throwing it because it's shit, and then he's talking about other various songs. Like we get it because that's era appropriate to us. But how would you translate that to be people who you showcase that to now would be like, what the fuck is a record?
Yeah, I tell you, no, in fact, I tell you what scene it would be when they walk out of the pub and they're doing the bubba dubba dubba dubba, and the zombie goes, "Oh!" They does it again, bubba dubba dubba dubba, goes, "Oh!" It's like, meant to be bass, dickhead.
Yeah.
This movie is great. when you come back to do another rapid review, should we just work our way through the Cornetto trilogy? Should we do Hot Fuzz
Yes.
next time?
Oh, definitely. I'd like to see it through and get through them all, and then we can work out whether we do Paul or not after that.
Does Paul? I'm going to ask this about Hot Fuzz and Paul.
Yeah.
Are they horror? Do they sit in horror? Are they close enough?
I think Hot Fuzz, definitely Hot Fuzz, and I think it's a weird movie because it's so overshadowed by the police aspect, but at its core, it's a cult movie. It is the Wicker Man. It's a Wicker Man movie. You know, it is 100% a Wicker Man movie,
So
and
that does.
also
Cool.
incorporates high elements of slasher, and you get lost in that due to the absurdity of the movie itself. Like, I watched it the other night, and that final gunslinging scene where they're just shooting up the village, and they've got the inspectors there coming for the village fair to check like village of the year and all the rest of it, and they're all just having these massive shootout like Bad Boys 3 and stuff like that, and it plays on those tropes that sort of showcases action 90s, Die Hard, Bad Boys. I can Lethal Weapon, you know, and it plays on those, but at its core, it focuses very heavily upon slasher. It's a very heavy slasher centric movie when you strip all that bloat around it. I 100% categorize Hot Fuzz as horror centric.
Hot Fuzz and at World's End, definitely. Paul, can we get away with Paul? I don't know, Paul.
No, but I don't think we can. But I think if we've done Hot Fuzz and World's End, then we kind of have to do it.
Well, that's it then. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, because at some point you're going to get notified that me and Marc are talking about Hot Fuzz and a big spiky point falling off a church steeple and obliterating someone's head.
What makes you think it's murder?
But until next time, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you all later on.
Cheers, guys.
From the shadows to the light, we'll judge every fearsome sight. Gore and chills all in one night. Tune in now, it's pure delight. Rapid reviews, here we go. Quick and snappy, watch us flow. Scary movies, yes or no. Rapid reviews, steal the show.